Um, when you say long-term financing, because I have no idea how this world works, is that 30-year debt? Do they put you on like those 5-year ones? Like, what does that look like? Welcome to the Winning Move podcast. Today we have another awesome, badass guest on. His name's Nathan Brooks. Nathan has so many accomplishments to where I told him he has to list them off himself because I forgot how many there were. So give me 3 of your accomplishments. Because I remember you telling me, I was like, God damn, it's a lot, dude.
Oh man. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast, and it's always a pleasure to hang with like-minded, amazing people. So I just appreciate you having me on here. So, yeah, I'm Nathan Brooks. I am a Midwesterner. I'm out of Kansas City, and yeah, we're recovering flipper. So we've done 700 plus flips in the last 5 or 6 years. And we've done a number of developments now. We've exited a 99 unit duplex development that we did, and we have another big one going on right now, and building new construction, Kansas City. Took an amateur fight at 39. I don't know if I threw that in there for
Bro, you
you,
didn't throw that in there.
but amateur fight at 39 in front of 1,000 people or so in a big arena. And yeah, I've been all over the place on both the real estate side. I got a pretty sizable Airbnb portfolio at this point, and we're doing some build to rent stuff as well. And so just enjoying navigating this crazy market that we have right now. And and I wrote a book and have a publisher, and so really excited. Been working on that for a couple of years now, and so that comes out on January 10th as well, anywhere books are sold. So yeah, I don't know if that's 3, but we got a couple.
No, bro, that was all. Bro, all right. I want to start off. Tell me about this fucking amateur fight. Why? Why?
Okay, this picture sets in my desk, so I just have to give you. There you go. So in front of it's not working. There we go.
There we go.
So yeah, there were at least 1,000 people, maybe more. It's in an event space that they do like pro level hockey, but not like NHL. And I was bullied as a kid, and I was always fearful of like interactions like that, and got through like high school and college, and I played music professionally for a couple of decades. Still play to this day. Play bass, play piano, play guitar, and sing, and taught theory. I love music theory, and I just started hearing like the Joe Rogans and the Tim Ferrisses and the Jocko Willings talking about jujitsu, and so I rolled into a jujitsu gym. Well, come to find out, I meet my coach, who actually I just chatted with recently, like today, but his name's Trey, and Trey's in the UFC now, by the way, which is pretty cool. But we got to train with a bunch of just mad killers, and at some point I was like, well, how could I train and do all this stuff and not have the experience of going through this? So I did a legit fight camp, and took a fight, and so yeah, it's crazy.
Did you win?
I lost a decision,
But you
which
didn't
I
get knocked out. You
did
didn't get
not get
knocked out.
knocked out. And I hate losing, let me tell you. I hate losing. And actually, I'll tell you a little crazy story on top of that too. So the guy, Ryan, and I fought, he and I ended up in the same place to weight cut. And we did not, of course, plan this. And so I am literally sitting in a sauna. He's wearing a trash bag suit, and I am wearing like a towel and like swim trunks. And he and I are sitting in this sauna together. The first time we've ever met, day before the fight, cutting weight. And he missed weight by, I don't know, 12 pounds or something. It was pretty significant. But I was like, I'd gone through all of that. I was like,
Right.
there's no
Fucking
way
fighting.
I am taking this fight. There's nothing keeping me from taking this fight. And so yeah, I broke his nose in the first round, and I really want to take him down and submit him, and but I ended up rolling out of there with a big fat black eye. But it was a hell of an experience, I'll tell you that.
How was the fight camp? What did that do for you mentally? Of like having to push yourself physically again?
There's nothing, I think people, who like to watch fights or watch UFC or whatever,
Mhm.
they I'll give an example. Like, for instance, you see somebody go against the cage, like you take somebody, press them against the cage, and you're kind of hand fighting and those sort of things. And there's nothing in the world. I've done lots of other like athletic things, triathlons, um, whatever. I've done other crazy stuff too, power paragliding, skydiving, whatever. There's nothing like the both physical, emotional, and mental challenge and pain and discomfort of wrestling, grappling, and fighting. There's nothing. And I'm in a gym full of guys literally who are half my age, a lot of them. I'm training with guys who are literally prize fighting in the biggest organizations in the world, Bellator, UFC, and regional ones. And what's cool too is because I'm a pretty tall, lengthy guy, so I would even start getting to like spar with some of the pro guys like on a regular basis because they'd be in fight camp and they'd have a taller
Just to give them a
guy
look. Yeah.
just to give them a look. And I'm real long limbed. And so, I distinctly remember, I mean, multiple times, like I'm a grown man, I'm a multimillionaire, I'm a successful real estate, business owner. And I would be in tears after class, like just got mauled, or you feel like you're gonna throw up, or you do throw up, or I got kicked so hard one time, multiple times, that I literally from my hip to my ankle to the bottom of my foot, it would spike for 3 weeks. Every time I would like roll over, like in bed lying down.
Oh, so you pinched a nerve or something?
Yeah, because I just got kicked so hard so many times in that round. And I remember, in fight camp too, in the gym, you'll do like 60 minutes of a workout, which, most people like the warm up is their workout. This is a warm up plus 60 minutes of a workout, which is, whatever crazy stuff you're doing. And then you have another 30 minutes of 5-minute rounds. And so like you have to do, back to back to back. It's 5 minutes on, 1 minute off, 5 minutes on, 1 minute off. And my coach he'd be standing there and be like, okay, and at that point, I'm not picking my training partners, he's picking my training partners. And then he'd be like yelling at you, like, Sutton, get back after it, like, get to it. Like, what are you, just the whole thing. Like, you can imagine what that is. So, I think most people underestimate what kind of suffering they can do. And there's no other way to figure that out. There's no way to replicate that other than to literally put your ass on the mat.
Yep.
and do the work and have the experience. And it was a life-changing one, I'll tell you that.
How long was your fight camp?
Fight camp was I want to say like around 12 weeks, something like that.
Damn.
And I weighed 210 or so at the beginning of camp, and I made weight at 185. So I also so I also cut weight. I was hardcore in my nutrition. I was working out, 6, 7, 8 times a week. I was doing 20, 30 live rounds a week. And I mean, I was
in it.
Yeah.
In it.
I mean, the nutrition was out in, like, I was hardcore on the nutrition, hardcore on you're drinking a gallon and a half water a day. You're not really drinking much or any booze, in the gym. And then, of course, I mean, you're kicking and punching people and strangling people, every day. So, my body's totally messed up. And, but, I will say, I love the line. I don't know if it's mine or someone else's, but like learning to be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yep.
You want to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, baby. Like, go put yourself in the gym and in jujitsu or in
get
kickboxing.
strangled.
Get strangled, man. And you can't see into these, but I even earned a little. You probably can't tell, but
did you? You got some cauliflower?
I do, yeah. And I'm a better man for it. There's no question in my mind. And I have more confidence, and I have tools, with that. And I'm no means, expert. I'm no means a professional. Not even close. So let's be very clear. But Yeah, it was a gift, and to get to train with some of these guys where you literally, I have probably 10 guys that I've gotten to actually roll with, train with, spar with, that I've watched in the UFC perform at the highest level, and it's pretty cool.
Well, and I'd feel like it'd be inspiring too to like see those dudes like really getting after it because like they are chasing greatness. And
Yes.
in my from me playing sports, I could tell the people who are going to be great by like their work ethic and like what
Hmm.
they're doing in the gym. Like when times got like really dark, like how did they bounce back? How did they react? And so you like get to see that side of like the mental psyche that really does play in entrepreneurship, but it
Hmm.
doesn't, let's say, manifest itself in the same way.
Yes. Well, and as a professional athlete too, like people, you have all those eyeballs on you, and you have the expectations. And let's be clear, those guys, they don't. There's a very short shelf life of this
Bro.
opportunity,
Oh yeah.
and I don't think most people really appreciate that.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why everybody like complains about NFL players like sitting out and stuff. It's like, bro, you know that they have a skill that they can
Yeah.
monetize for like 3 years. And so they better get out as much money out of it as possible. Cause after that, you have no way to make money unless you had a massive brand.
Yep. Exactly. And we in the real estate world, we had a client who was in the NFL. We had a couple actually, and he was incredibly smart. He had a pretty good initial contract, and then he had a really good second contract. And this dude was paying cash for real estate, and I don't know what he ended up with. In maybe 20, 30, 40 houses, something somewhere in there. And it's not like an insane amount of money, but it's not a small amount either.
Yeah.
And he was smart because he's like, I know that in the end of the day, I might be the top tier athlete, but you get injured, you get one weird thing, you get cut by your team. Um, Stuff happens.
Oh yeah. Um, let's talk about how big you built that flipping company. Cause like, bro, that's one of the biggest flipping companies I've personally like heard of and met someone doing. Talk about like where it started, how you grew it, and then why you finally decided like, bro, let's just wind this thing down.
Yeah. So in 2015, late 2015, I met my partner David, and he and I, our original goal was really buying and holding, and we did, and I'd done real estate before that as well, but I hadn't done it at scale, or at least not
Yeah.
any like sizable scale. And so we started, and I think the first year or like first calendar year, we did maybe 20, 30 deals, something like that. And we basically doubled, and doubled. And then there were a number of years we were doing well over 100, for year back to back. And it's interesting as you scale that, because as a person, like I said, I'm I'm a musician by trade. That was my, my education was in high school and college. I really, I didn't really play sports. I'm more
Mhm.
athletic in my 30s and 40s than I was in my high
Okay.
school years. And so and I've learned to love that, thanks to Goggins and Jocko and
Yeah.
Rogan and all these guys. um but the scaling of that was interesting because I think a lot of times it's easy to get out of clarity of what problem you're solving for the sake of doing something that feels like it's important, if that makes sense. And so for us, as we started to scale, uh, we could hire more people. We had a good product, and I've always been really good on like the branding and sales side of things. It's something I enjoy. It kind of comes naturally to me. I got very lucky and was on Bigger Pockets podcasts. I was their first 4-time guest, so it's the biggest real
Oh,
estate
no way.
podcast. Yeah, biggest
Hell
real
yeah.
estate podcast on the internet, right? And I've written for Bigger Pockets for years too. So I've written probably
Yeah.
hundreds of articles, hundreds of thousands of words on their blog. And so that was great. There wasn't an issue of getting more deals. It wasn't an issue of getting more clients. It wasn't an issue of getting more money. Um, so we built up to, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20 people on our team. We're spending $250,000 a month just to keep the lights on.
Yep.
we're churning. We hit the Inc. 5000 list multiple years in a row, and we're just hammering deals. And as I started to like think about what do I actually want my experience to be like, then I started to have this realization that this isn't that much fun. And the margins start on these deals, 2019, 2020, 2021 started to just get smaller margin. So we have to do more deals to make the same amount of money, plus larger overhead. And it was getting a lot less fun.
Mhm.
It was getting a lot less fun. And so, I had that realization um, that I want to do something that I'm really enjoying and that is a blessing and that I can bless other people, and that it, like, from a lifestyle experience, it it's really fulfilling to me. And so middle of last year we decided we stopped buying like flips at that scale. This doesn't mean I haven't done some. Like this year I've done
Yeah.
a few, but like for instance I did 5 with a real estate with a partner of mine, and we did $2.2 million in 5 transactions that'll gross like almost 400K over 5 properties. Totally different problem, right?
Totally different problem.
And so you're like, I don't, yeah, I know I have friends with big businesses and I have no beef with them. I have nothing but love and support. What I realized for me was, after going through all of that and having all of those employees, and I love leadership and I love talking about leadership and I love coaching and helping people with business. But man, having that big of a business is just not for me. And so I kind of almost had to go through that to understand, like, okay, I really don't want to do that, but I have clarity on why. And then I
Yeah.
have more clarity on the visibility of what I want it to look like, and then I can take action towards it. So I take that as a blessing.
Well, I think most people who put their head down and grind in a business have like, all right, I'm making a lot of money now, but then they have an end to it. To like, I can
Hmm.
sell it or I can take it public or something else. And like, then that comes and it's worth it. To where with
Yep.
flipping, bro, like the really only next evolution is doing what you do now. Like there is no
Yep.
selling it. There's nothing like that.
Yes.
I want to know, was it still inconsistent in that high too? Like, was it still like the variable cash flow? Because most people I know in the real estate space, no matter what, they're like, bro, like it's good money, but it's still projects go over, projects go under. Sometimes like we don't have enough deals come in this month, that's next month. And then when you're shelling out 250,
Yep. Same exact problem, exactly what you're saying. And then you have, or you have COVID hit, man. We had,
yep.
I think we had like 50 or 60 rehabs going at one time.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. And so I remember distinctly at that time, because typically like we had sales guy and marketing guy to COO. We had like the full suite of people in the organization. And I remember, who, by the way, most of do not work for me anymore and still have awesome relationships, which is awesome.
yeah.
That means a lot to me, and it's important. But you know, it's a nightmare from a cash flow perspective. You have, you know, deals not close on time, or like I mentioned, COVID, happens, and we have 7, 8, 9, 10 deals, go out from under contract,
Yep.
and you know, and it's no fun when you have a big giant overhead bill
That,
like that.
yeah.
And yeah, so, and I think personally for me too, when I looked for like what's the satisfaction, uh it was like, we did a deal in Texas, this year, and you know we had a 7-figure exit out of the deal, and we had a handful of partners, and the deal went really well. And you're like, okay, I could do one transaction and make this, or I can do hundreds of transactions.
Yep.
And so that's why I've just started to really be even more and more thoughtful on, like, what do I really want to spend that time on.
So how did you get how did you learn how to do that 7-figure deal? Like the development deal? Like, I mean,
It
that's a whole nother animal, dude. Like that's not flipping.
I so I definitely, I got lucky I got
Okay.
fortunate. So we raised a fund a couple years ago, and so we raised it's a small fund. It's $4 or $5 million, and so we've been able to do more and more deals out of this fund and be able to create bigger opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And so we had a partner that we connected with who was a great builder, and so he, they had actually put together a development company, and so we were able to see like, okay, one of my gifts is here's the pieces of the puzzle, and how do I structure something that is an opportunity to like utilize the team, like the Marvel movie. How do we bring all the characters in, right? So that's what I love, and I love seeing from a visionary. People go overboard all the time on the visionary thing, so I'm not trying to go overboard on my abilities here, but just being able to pull in a relationship and say, okay, what is an opportunity that we have? And so that's what happened. We had the timing was right. We had the right players. We had capital that we could put together. We had balance sheet that we could,
Yeah.
support this opportunity, and we took imperfect action and had a really awesome result. So in being able to then learn from that and understand it and bring in players, I think people all the time I hear like don't do partners and I'm like no, don't do bad partners, with not clear vision and not clear roles and responsibilities. Like, do awesome partnerships with clear responsibilities and clear understanding of outcomes. And so it makes all the difference.
Bro. So where did that deal come from? Like the builder brought it and you guys just essentially funded it?
The builder brought it, and then there was also a wing that could do the development. So we had the horizontal, and then we had talked about also doing the vertical, and we ended up just selling that piece. But we've also done multiple other ones with vertical, horizontal and vertical, with the
Okay.
same partner. So we kept another 30 some units out of that that same partnership. And
Did you refi those?
yep, and we've refinanced. Uh, we have one that we're still in the process of getting occupied, but we've gotten all the other ones, uh, you know, put into long-term financing as well.
When you say long-term financing, because I have no idea how this world works, is that 30-year debt? Do they put you on like those 5-year ones? Like, what does that look like?
Well, there's a couple different options, and actually, I was on the phone with a couple different lenders today, so we are working like
Okay.
navigating in this environment is a totally different problem too, to be clear, because when you're getting 3.5%, 4% money is it underwrites very differently than 6, 7, 8,
7.
9,
Yeah.
whatever. It's I was in an event this week, and I was hearing of a guy talking about a $78 million deal that was put together that had like an 8.5 or a 9 in front of it, which is just, I mean, I don't know how you get a deal done, and
At that.
especially with, yeah, well, especially in the appreciation, like the values that we're dealing with now too. But so there's a bunch of different ways you can structure it, but two that are really kind of what you named. So you have like the Fannie Freddie loans that you can do, like once you get above, I think I can't remember exactly what the threshold is, but it's like 1.5 million, 2 million, a loan amount. You can get into both non-recourse and 30-year debt at a pretty
Okay.
darn good interest rate.
Yeah.
So and those go up, into the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And then you have, which I have a lot more of, which is that community bank kind of money, which is 20 or 25-year amortization, and then you have like a 3, 5, or 7, 10-year reset. And then on the back of that reset could be a couple different things. So it could be a balloon, or it could be a rate adjustment. So the balloon means, hey, this actually has
Yeah.
a reset. We have to refinance, and in some situations that might mean that lender's like, well, hey, peace out, I'm done.
Mhm.
Of course, we try not to work with lenders that are like that. But then we also have lenders who have done that, 25-year AM, 5-year reset. So the loan doesn't balloon, but the rate resets, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so the rate resets. What, and does it reset to whatever fucking prime is or whatever it is?
Typically it's
Yeah.
like the 10-year T-bill. Yeah.
And so is the 10-year T-bill, and I'm not super familiar on this, is that the one that's like at 4% right now, or is that the other one? Because my boy who's buying storage is like, bro, I don't really care about rates. Like the whatever bill is still at like 5 or 4. I'm not
Yeah.
worried.
I get confused on which one's which too, but basically I'm pretty sure it's the same. We're saying the same thing, tied to
Okay.
prime. And so that's what went up, like, multiple percentage points over the last
Yep.
couple of months. So we were sitting, like, I don't remember the exact number, what, 1.5% or something, 2%, and now up to what, 4.25% or whatever it's at. And then those banks then are charging. That's why you have rates so much higher, because of course they're getting money, they're lending money. So it's a mess, and it's much harder to underwrite that deal too, because then when you're trying to look forward to say, okay, well, like today we're working on another deal, like, so when we're looking forward, are we dealing with 7%? Are we dealing
Exactly.
with 7.5%? 8%? And then what is that time horizon on seeing an adjustment with the Fed to slow down, to stop, and then eventually to pull that back some, because effectively they are creating a recession based on their decisions to increase the single fastest interest rate hike in history, I believe, is what I heard.
What are you leaning towards then on, like, are you trying to do like a 7? 5 years scare the hell out of me, honestly, like, because we're doing 2 10-year balloons right now, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to do like a 5. That freaks me out.
I go back and forth on this, but for the most part, all of mine have been 5s, just because some of my favorite lenders are the ones that, like, that's what their option is, and we couldn't get it
Okay.
further out. The other thing, that I'm hearing right now is, if you, let's say you lock in a 10-year note, and everybody has their own opinion, right? So let's be clear. This is just my opinion, and what I'm hearing from other people working on this, and even a lender today I was talking to was like, let's say, for instance, if you end up, it costs you more money to lock in a 10-year rate, or there's what's called yield maintenance on some of these notes too, which yield maintenance is a fancy industry term for them to say, we're going to charge you if you want to get out sooner.
Just a prepayment. Yeah.
It's a prepayment, yeah. But yield maintenance, sounds pretty prepayment just sounds like we're stealing your money. Either way, it kind of feels like that sometimes. But in any case, what's interesting is I'm actually hearing a lot more people even using bridge loan products right now, where they have 12 months, 24 months, and then it's like, all right, well, if I don't have, either way, it's going to be kind of expensive for the short term.
Yep.
Don't know what the long term is. So, hey, if I spend more money to have this 10-year, or I spend more money to have this, this loan that has, a lot of yield maintenance.
Yeah. Okay.
Then in 12 months or 18 months, 24 months, and you're like, well, shoot, I could have refinanced, for this much better rate. Now you have to say, okay, well, obviously we don't know. Anybody that tells you they know, it's full of shit. But
Yep.
We don't know, but we can make an educated guess as to what the timeline is for them to create that. And then, or create the time. Okay, Q3, Q4, is it Q1 of 24? Like, where is it at that we actually have this? Inflation slows down at least to a certain point, and then and then it's, what is it, another quarter or two to have rates start to decline and sit in a place that makes financial sense for you to go back and pay the cost of doing another refinance. So
Yep.
we've been balancing that for sure, and taking into account. But like I mentioned, I've done a couple I have a big 4x whiteboard that sits right here in my office, so I'm always staring at this blank thing across the screen. But we've gotten a number of refinances done in the last 2 months that were in the like mid 6s.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, I would just have to weigh the cost of waiting versus not waiting, the bridge loan versus like, hey, now I know I have to do something versus, hey, I'm going to lock this down, but I don't have a prepayment penalty. And, my lender that I work with, hey, we can work a refinance that's pretty inexpensive in, 12, 24 months, whatever.
Mhm.
So, and this is where it's worth, uh, Stratton, everybody listening, like have a conversation with your banker and talk about it. Be like,
Yeah,
what is the plan? What like, and have that open dialogue, because I think, a lot of times, sometimes people get, afraid of having those conversations
hmm,
instead of saying like, let's have this head on. Let's have a conversation about what happens. Let's have a conversation if rates don't go down longer, or if values go down, so that at least there's open dialogue with in relationship with that
exactly,
lender.
bro. That was awesome. So I'd never thought about like the 12-month, like, okay, I don't have to worry about prepayments. I think in 24 months in bridge debt, I interest rates should be down a little bit lower, right? And then you don't have to worry about having a prepayment penalty locked in at fucking 8% or whatever right now at
Yeah,
on a 10-year.
on a 10 year. Yeah, because now you have this long time horizon where you're all of a sudden like, shoot, now, where's my break even?
Yeah,
Am I going to eat, in I think a lot of times on those longer ones too, like a lot of times the prepayment is longer, like it might be a 5 4 3 2 1, where you have like, God only knows how many points you're looking at, what that,
yeah.
what is that? 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14, like 15 points, like you did in year one. Like, you're like, I'm never going to get out of it.
Exactly. When did you start building your Airbnb portfolio?
I've done a few over the years, starting probably in 2018, 2019, something like that. I think I don't know exactly. I think I'm close to somewhere between 15 and 20 units on the Airbnb side. And you know, I really like the Airbnb thing because I love what everything I wanted to move to was, am I having fun? Does it make great money? And can I do it with cool people?
Yeah.
And so, the Airbnb thing was like, all right, if I look at a single family rental right now and it's making, you're lucky if you get $50 a month, $100 a month in cash
Right.
flow, and I just talked to my partner in a couple of our deals. We on two houses, we cleared almost $10,000 net in a month. And
And that's crazy on singles.
it's crazy. It's crazy on singles. And once we have, I have two that just refinanced tonight. So this year, that 2.2 million, 5 units, all but one will be in service in 2022. So that's really exciting. But you look at what a cash flow in a single family, long-term rental, which I'm still buying those too, but I like supplementing with this like Airbnb house, upper end type of property, uh, something that I'm really proud to own, something that has a much wider margin of safety, as well as a wider margin of equity. So I'm looking to do that kind of same burst strategy into an Airbnb house as I am into, single family.
Sorry, I'm just writing down questions as they're coming up. I
You're
feel
good.
like what you would, and I have two questions. This is just like an observation. I feel like you're buying those singles now for more depreciation than
Yep.
anything. Like you're just like, I just want to add that to my portfolio. I can take the depreciation. I know I'm not going to get a ton of cash flow in 20 years, 30 years. We'll cash flow. It'll be fine. But you're in a financial position to where, and I was talking to Henry Washington about this. He's like, bro, I only buy like B class and above now. He's like, I make a ton of money. He's like, and I'd rather just buy B class and above, not really get a ton of cash flow, but it's safe. It's a good asset. It's gonna appreciate. Is that kind of like your mindset with it?
100%. The only thing different is I will say I haven't seen as good of deals in some of the B class stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've actually been looking at like the tertiary areas.
Okay.
So not like straight up in the rural, like not not close, but like
Mm-hmm.
where are areas where I can get really good value, and dominate a space where I can be a buyer, because that's the
Okay.
other thing right now is, I don't want to put a bunch of cash in either.
Yep.
And so where can I find a really good deal? And and so for instance, like in this opportunity, I partnered with a good contractor buddy of mine too, because I was like, all right, I don't want to do all the work, so I'll put the deal together. You go do the construction. We'll hand it off to property management, and I'll keep 50% and you keep 50%. And you know what? Guess what? I probably have like minus $2,000 in the deal. So,
That's awesome.
they paid me to close it. Yeah. So, I think for me, and everybody's a little different, but, when I looked at the rental portfolio over the years, if you look at that principal pay down over, say, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, you have a couple of different really cool strategies, which is one, you can just refi it and take your cash out, you know, tax free. You can 1031 and move that money into something else if you want, different asset class or, apartment building or whatever. Or you certainly could go the route. Well, I guess there's four. Third, you could just pay it down, right? And
Hmm.
run the full depreciation and run, and then just be debt free, which I think is a beautiful option. And lastly, you could just sell them once your depreciation's gone, but
Exactly.
you're a real estate guy. Obviously, 1031 is a really nice tool. So, but you know, I think it's funny when I got into real estate. I remember like everybody's like cash flow, cash flow, cash flow, and don't get me wrong, cash flow is great. Uh, but when I looked at the cash flow versus the wealth flow, so to speak, it was like
Yeah.
it wasn't even close. Not even close. So you get cash flow a couple of years, it was like, I don't know, at one point I owned, 30, 40 rentals personally, and that was outside of like our business holdings and everything. And I was making, it's a few $1,000s a month with debt on it. And then I refinanced those and had, three, 400K in in
Tax free money.
dollars, yeah, in tax-free money. So it's like, I mean, it's not close.
Not
Not
even
close.
close.
No, no.
I and I kind of realized this because we bought like 3 houses in a row in 3 months. And then our taxes went up on one of them and there was a skinny deal. And so then that cash flows like $50 a month. And I was like, man, I'm gonna have to buy a lot of houses if I really want to cash flow on this. And so that's why I kind of moved into storage and now we're looking at Airbnb stuff. And now if we do buy houses, it's really just for depreciation. And like we'll take the cash flow,
Yep.
but it's really not going, you're not going to cash flow your way to freedom, in my personal opinion, unless you do like Airbnb. It is going to take a very, very long time.
Yep. So I have a good buddy of mine who owns, I don't know, around 175 doors, and he retired himself at like 30 something. He's married, no kids, and shout out to Austin. He's a good dude. And you know what? He probably, well, I won't talk his. He makes plenty. He does
Yeah,
well. He does well. He's not crushing it out of the park, but he does whatever he wants, right?
exactly.
And so there's a certain number of doors that you certainly can, have cash flow freedom. But I will say, and somebody you and I know personally, or maybe that connected us here, like we know friends that have, 50, 100 rentals paid off. I mean, there's nothing you have to do,
Yep.
nothing you have to do. And even whatever lifestyle you want to live, I think at some point, half a million, a million a year, there's pretty much nothing you can't do,
Yep.
really honestly, with even less than that. Uh, and so, but people get obsessed about the cash flow thing and then they forget about all the other tools.
I think as far as like cash flow goes, and I've thought about this a lot. As far as like money coming in, like the $10,000 a month thing doesn't really change until you like want to spend 50. Then I
Yep.
think at 50, you are gonna have to live like an absolute asshole to like really, really, really like jump to the next level to where it's gonna like make a difference, to where it's like always flying like really extravagant things as far as
Mhm.
like spending the money. Cause like there's not that big of a differentiator from what I've seen and like that type of income. Like it's a million, then we got to jump to 20. Like not there's not a ton that's going to change in between that.
I completely agree with you. And, that's something that I've been both fascinated and obsessed with over the last few years, which is, what is it that you really need? Like, and don't get me wrong, I have had months where I've made, more money in a day than most people make in, 5 years or 10 years or whatever.
Yep.
So I don't want to be a hypocrite. I've also had months and months back to back as an owner of a business where I haven't paid myself anything, or I've written a check for 6 figures into that company,
Yep.
which is not fun. And so, I think for me, as I've kind of approached that, is like, okay, I own a very nice house, but I bought it right, I bought it well. Um, and it's kind of expensive compared to probably most people's, but it's not that expensive compared to my income.
Yep.
And you know, the vast majority of everything else is paid for free and clear. I don't have debt on it. Uh, I leased my 911 to my company because I liked it and I could afford it and I enjoy it. And bro, it's so fun. You don't hate me. We're going for a ride. Uh, and and then doing like cool stuff with your family. And so, and
Yep.
when you start to think like, if you're burning through cash, uh, where's the money going? Like, what are you spending it on? And again, let me be very clear. I have been guilty of this too. Like, we start to make more money and you're like, oh, let's do it. Oh, let's go on a bit. Let's do the big dinner. Let me take my boy out. Uh, so that happens. And that's, I mean, it's part of learning. But you make more money, like find more ways to invest it. Find more ways to give money,
Yeah.
in a philanthropic way that makes an impact for people. And so that's what I have more fun with, is how do I invest it? How do I do cool stuff with my family and stuff with people I love? And how do I help people that need a hand up, need a blessing, need something in their life that I can do and help?
So when did you start thinking about, because this is something you emphasize on a lot, to when did you feel comfortable enough, like, bro, I don't give a fuck anymore. It's about more fun than
Mhm.
anything. Like, I just want to do stuff to, like, I enjoy it, because like you have to get to that point. I truly do not think anybody can just say that's what I want to do. Everybody says they want to do something they love. I'm like, I love having sex with my wife, bro. And I don't really want to start an OnlyFans. So like I can't just do that
Right.
for a living.
Right. That's fair. And I'll let you solve that problem with her. But I you know, do you like how I just like um yeah, I know the balded bearded guy OnlyFans probably not gonna do very well. So yeah, I'll pass on that one too. I think that we there's a space between the mental capacity and understanding of how to solve that problem and then the actual outcome of a problem of, say, I don't know what the number is, 100, 150, 200K a year, whatever that number is, that you're like, gosh, if I could just make that. I remember sitting in my living room of my first house my wife and I bought, thinking, if I could make 6 grand a month, like I would be a king. I remember so distinctly. And now you're like, 6 grand. I mean, I can like accidentally spend that on like insurance. But, I just like gone, and
Gone.
put a zero on that multiple times. And so I think it's relative to what problem we're solving. And if we're more clear on that, then we can be way more clear on on what we um on what we make. But I'm gonna go one step further. And I'm going to say, I think most people don't love themselves, and they
Okay.
haven't taken time to deal with the human that is the bag of bones and blood that they are, and what they're put on the planet to do. And whether you're a religious person, or you're, a Buddhist person, or you don't have anything, we have to solve this problem because we need to understand what this human condition thing is all about and what we're put on the planet to do. And when we can come back to ourselves and all the things that have made us who we are, whether it's good or bad or trauma or terrible or wonderful or beautiful, we get to name those things and own them, and then we can be more comfortable in our own skin, which then allows us to be more comfortable in who we are and our identity and what we want and what we want to create. And yeah, I don't think a lot of people talk about that, honestly.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the money thing, I don't think I'll ever stop wanting to make more money because I like love the game, and I can tell you love the game, but I can tell
Oh,
you are comfortable with where you're at. But like, bro, I'm not stopping. I'm going for it. Right. And that's a
yeah.
very, very, you have to come to terms with that. Like, I love the game. I will never stop. I will keep doing what I'm doing, but at the same time, loving yourself. And I think that is a very, very good point.
Yeah, and finding ways then like, okay, well, I can do more deals, but maybe I don't need to do as many. Or like if I can do a seven-figure deal, like how many deals a year do I need to do? Or Airbnb house, like, hey, I always wanted to have, X number of dollars coming out of my passive income. I can be more picky about, the
Yep.
units that I pick up or the type of property, because, that was the other thing when our business was so big and we are trying to churn through all these deals.
You don't
You're
have a
like,
lot of
okay,
liquid cash.
you don't have liquid cash and you also have to go buy more stuff because you have to feed that machine back. So, it can create a huge problem. So, I do love the game and I do love doing it, but I obsess a lot less about like my active income and more about where do I get my time? Where do I get my time back? And where is that 80/20 lever that
Yep.
I get to have the time doing cool stuff, traveling, playing golf, punching people in the face, going hunting, like whatever. Uh, like I want that time I want to be able to decide what I would do with that time.
100%. I want to take it back to rates because this is something I've been talking to people about now. Are you buying down rates? Do you ever buy down rates? Have you ever done like IO? Like, because I think the stat is like, bro, if you're going to sell your house within the first 13 years, never buy down the rate. And if you're going to sell it within 7, just do an interest only loan in the first place because you're not touching any principal.
Well, so we have talked about IO on some stuff, just to make like, hey, can we make this work?
Pencil for,
Especially in the short term. Uh, I don't, my preference honestly is to have the longest, most stable, rate in place. And that's why the 5 year, it doesn't bother me that much to have a reset, because I truly believe we're going to reset down, not up.
yeah,
But I sure hope so. I mean, 5 years of stagnating or
increases.
rising in interest,
Yeah,
like we're going to be a totally different problem, bro. We'll
yeah,
be solving a totally different problem. But is what it is. That is definitely in the things that I do not control.
exactly.
But I think for people, and for you, thinking about like, okay, well, what problem am I solving today, and what is the long term problem that I solve by making this decision? And therefore, like, if I'm holding it long term and I can like make this work with the rate, then take the cheapest and most stable option. If you're like, hey, this it's like barely making margin, but it's a smoking deal, has a lot of equity, then you can always take take a look at that and say, all right, well, for a short period of time, we're just going to take this. We're just going to take this, year or two money, and we roll on.
Hey, I don't know who that was. Sorry about that, dude. I
It's
was like,
okay.
who?
The look on your face is so great. You're like, huh? Like,
I didn't
who's
know who
here?
the hell that was. Um, it's
That's
probably someone
hilarious.
from who used the wrong Zoom account.
Yeah,
Okay, but so the most stable stuff that you can do, and then again, like whatever your plan is, follow your plan.
I think so. I think whatever's the most stable and whatever works. And like on our Airbnbs, I mean, I chose not to do uh interest only just because, at the end of the day, I want that pay down going on. And but like on some of the other stuff we are looking at today, we were totally talking about it because hey, we could be into this whole deal at a pretty smoking loan to value. So yeah, we'll take the hit on paying principal for a couple of years. We'll have the asset
But you're
stabilized,
safe.
but we're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, bro. I know you got a call in 3 minutes. Where can people find out more about you? Where can tell us about your book? You're doing coaching, correct?
I do coaching. I don't do a lot of coaching, so I just take, some individual clients here and there. I I'm real picky on that just because love helping people, and I want to make sure that, that I can help them, and that like I can truly actually deliver on that. But so it's pretty cool, man. This literally showed up. I don't know why my computer keeps doing that.
You have the blurred background.
Oh,
That's
do I
why.
have the blur on? Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm a total idiot. Okay, I'm gonna unblur for I feel like such an idiot. So sorry about that.
No
Okay,
problem, dude.
blur off. Okay, so there's the book. They just showed up at my house like I don't know, 2 to 3 days ago. So it's pretty cool. This is book number one. And so it's called The No Quitters Guide to Crushing Real Estate Investing and Building an Extraordinary Life. And my good buddy, Brandon Turner, who is probably one of the more famous dudes in the real estate space as an author and former podcast host on Bigger Pockets. He wrote the foreword.
Hell yeah. Congrats, bro. That's
And
awesome.
thanks, man. So yeah, it publishes January 10th. Morgan James is the publisher. And it's available anywhere books are sold. If you are going to buy it, go to Barnes and Noble and help a brother out, because that helps me the most and helps our publisher the most to get it on the shelves in the stores and stuff.
Okay.
Obviously there's other places we can buy them from, which we know of, but that's what they asked, so that's why I'm asking. But the book writing journey was a pretty incredible one, and I wanted to write a book that not just talked about real estate. And how many of us read Rich Dad Poor Dad and we're like, it's such an inspiration, but like, what do I do with that information?
Yep.
Like, and how do I go about it? And so I really went through like, so I want to change my life. Now what? Like, how do I do that? And then, what I believe to be is true in real estate and not, and then going through like real estate 101, give some actual background understanding, and then say like, let's set up our life now, what we were dreaming about, and actually like put those things into play that we think we can have and create for the future. So that's the premise of the book. And build that extraordinary life, right? Like, build something you love your life. And I think a lot of people don't love their life, and
Yep.
they're not consciously trying to create that. So noquittersguide.com is the place you can find the book.
It's a great
And
URL, bro.
thank you. noquittersguide.com. And well, I think there might be another book after No Quitters Guide, number one. So I think I might have a franchise opportunity here. But
Oh,
well, think about that, like No Quitters Guide to
I'm
blank, right?
100%, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really, it's funny. I hired a coach, like I do for most things if I want to do it. But, fighting, golf, real estate, writing. And so she and I worked together. I wrote 30-some thousand words in pre-work. And then I wrote the entire book, 72,000 words, in 19 days. And
What?
yeah, 19 days. And then I reread the book like 2, 3, 4 weeks later, and I hated it. And so I rewrote chapter 1, rewrote chapter 2, rewrote chapter 3, and then I ended up rewriting the entire book, like not pulling from, like rewriting
Just
from,
rewriting.
just rewriting the entire thing a second time. And so 66,000 words. So I basically wrote 3 books in the course to write one. But in the spirit of that No Quitters Guide, I was like, I have to make it as good as I can possibly make it. And so that was the impetus.
Oh man, that's awesome. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so I'm active on the Facebook and the Gram. So you can just literally Google Nathan Brooks Facebook. It's right there. My Instagram's Nathan Brooks REI. And yeah, I love to connect with people, and just really appreciate you having me on here, man. And I was like, we need to have more conversations. I love the connection, and I love the vibe you put into the world and intention with your podcast too. So really
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'll let you get out. I know you got that call that was 2 minutes ago.
Oh, it's all good. I let him know as we started that I was running a few minutes behind, just so that we made sure we had plenty of time. And so yeah, it's all good, brother. And I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Thank you so much, dude. You have a great day.
You too.
And thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much for tuning in.